Did everyone enjoy fake spring? Because I went out for a bike ride yesterday and I swear it felt like it dropped 15 degrees in about 25 minutes. And I know everyone else is getting it a lot worse than we are here in California, but I had to break out one of my New York sweaters because it didn't even make it to 50 today. I have a lot to go over this week. It was a good week for acquisitions. We've got some Destash news as well as some Knitalong and Crochetalong news. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome and thank you for joining me here at GaryKnitsAndRides, a Craftivism podcast at the intersection of making things and doing good. My name is Gary. I am a knitter and a crocheter. I am also a cyclist with AIDS Lifecycle, which is an annual 7-day, 545-mile charity bike ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles, raising money for the life-saving work of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBT Center. This is my 5th year doing the ride, and as part of my fundraising, I run a series of Knitalongs and Crochetalongs, as well as an occasional fiber auction on Instagram. You can find me at GaryKnitsAndRides on Instagram, and on Ravelry at GaryKnitsAndRides. If this is your first time joining me, thank you very much. I know we have had a lot of new subscribers, so thank you all for subscribing and coming back and watching some more of my yarny shenanigans. It has been a fairly busy couple of weeks. Had some fun. Have really started to ramp up my cycling training. So I'm a little bit behind from where I would like to be. Typically, in the past few years, I try to get about 1,000 miles of training done before the ride itself. I don't know that I'm going to get that done this year. A combination of a wet spring and a colder than normal spring, and just things getting a little bit back to normal in terms of travel and things for us. So my cycling time has been cut a little bit, but I'm trying to make up for it as best as I can. So I'm about 70 miles a week right now. I will probably in another week or so get that up to 100 miles and then ramp that up to closer to 200, 250 by the time I get ready to ride in June. So that has been fun. Unfortunately, this cold snap that I just mentioned at the top took a little bit of bite out of it this week. I'm going to do some of that training indoors. But I also got to see my sister this week. She came to visit, spent some time with our parents, and then she came over here and we did a little yarn shopping from my stash. She helped me go through all my yarn, pick out some stuff for Destash, which I'll talk about in a bit, and then I sent her home with a suitcase full of yarn for her to use for her future projects. So I was able to get my yarn count down a little bit that way as well. We also had another house guest, which was great to see, a friend from Boston. I mentioned that my sister took some yarn, and if you watched my episode back at the very beginning of the year, I talked about one of my intentions being to have a net negative yarn flow for the year. So more yarn going out of the house than coming into the house through projects, Destash, giving it away on the streets, giving it away to my sister. And I'm happy to report that with that little exercise that we went through in terms of going through and picking out some more yarn for Destash, as well as the stuff that I sent home with her, I'm down to -20 so far for the year. Which is fantastic, and that includes, I think, everything that was a pre-order that is yet to come into the house. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm hoping we can hold that. I do have a couple of things coming up where I know I will be buying yarn, but hopefully I can go back through and maybe destash some more stuff and keep that around -20 for the year. So that would be fantastic. Maybe even do some more knitting than I'm expecting to do. Speaking of destashing, we finished up the latest Destash for Good fiber auction, which is another one of my fundraisers for AIDS Lifecycle. You can find that account at Instagram at Destash for Good. So we had a 2-week auction. It was huge. There were 402 or 3 items up for auction. And it was another big success. We actually broke the record in terms of the amount of money that was raised for AIDS Lifecycle. We raised about $5,500 for AIDS Lifecycle. It definitely was a buyer's auction. I think that the average item sold for about a 48% discount to retail, which is a little bit deeper of a discount than what we've seen in the prior auction. So nevertheless, it was, in my view, a huge success. I think people had a lot of fun. Buyers got some great bargains. I got some great bargains that I'm going to show you in a minute. And we raised a lot of money for AIDS Lifecycle. So I did have some lessons learned from that auction. Again, it was the biggest one I've done to date. It was the third one I've done. Not quite double the number of listings that I had in the previous one. And I think that might have been one of the issues with in terms of the pricing and why things maybe did not sell as higher prices as they have in the past. I think there were just too many items for people to scroll through. It's difficult in running the auction on Instagram to really organize it. I'm trying to work on coming up with some ideas on how I might better organize things so that we group things by weight or something like that. It just becomes difficult. I think, as I mentioned before, the way that the listings come in, to sort of hold off on listing things because Instagram does not want me to batch upload 300 listings all at once. But I'm trying to think of some ways to maybe work around that. And I'll probably just keep the number down a bit in the future. The other lesson learned was maybe not to have the final weekend of bidding on the same weekend as Vogue Knitting Live and the same weekend as the Super Bowl. I think that probably kept a lot of people from focusing on my little yarn auction because there were a bunch of other events going on. So I'll try to do a better job of looking ahead at the calendar and see what might be coming up in the yarn world that would keep people occupied in other ways. But otherwise, I think it was a huge success, and we're planning to do 2 more before the ride in June. So I'm planning to do a mini auction in March that's going to be mainly my things, but I am going to open it up for people on a limited basis. I'm going to try this as an experiment in terms of some of the things I was just talking about in terms of ways of grouping things and listing things, but I don't want to do it with a giant listing because it's just going to be too difficult to manage. I just kind of want to see how it's going to work. So we'll do a mini one. Probably I'm thinking to kick off around the 7th of March and run for not the full 2 weeks that we usually do, but a little over a week. So probably, or maybe not even a week. So around the 13th. So maybe just over the course of a weekend and some weekdays. Follow me on Instagram at Destash for good, and I'll put out a call to get a handful of people, if there are people who are interested in listing things in that mini auction, to kind of help me iron out some of the kinks and how we might better organize things. It would be really helpful. And then we'll do another full auction, not 403 items probably, but somewhere between 250 and 300 probably in April. And that'll probably run around the 8th through the 16th. Don't hold me to those dates because I haven't checked the calendar to see what might else be going on. But that's the kind of idea for 2 full weekends of bidding on that for in April. And that will give me time to get all those closed out and everything before I really hit the peak of my training in the early part of May, before the bikes have to go on the truck at the end of May. And that'll be the last big fundraising push that I'll do for this year's AIDS Lifecycle. Although there are a couple of really fun things, I think, on the horizon for some additional fundraising ideas that I'll talk about in a later episode. But as my other big fundraiser for AIDS Lifecycle is the End AIDS Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. We are coming to the close of the winter Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. So we have the shawl Knitalong, which is the reconstructed shawl by Yarnaceous Fibers. We have the Crochetalong, which is the It's Better shawl from Austin's Crochet Podcast. And then we have the sock Knitalong, which are the Resolutions and Resolutions light socks from Snowy Thistle Knits with yarn kits from Always Be Kind Yarns. So those are going to run until the end of the month. Get your photos uploaded to either the Ravelry group or to Instagram using the hashtags. And we're going to have the last round, or rounds, I should say, of giveaways coming for those right after the end of the month. I'm going to probably be out of town when it actually closes, and it's unclear to me if I'll be able to do those drawings immediately at the close. But I will cut them off in terms of the dates that I'll accept, entries from as of 8 p.m. on Pacific time on the last day of the month, and then when I get back in town, I'll draw the names and get those sent out. But I did want to talk about what the prizes are going to be for those final rounds of giveaways. So for each of the Knitalongs and Crochetalongs, there are a minimum of 5 rounds of giveaways. 3 of those happen at the very end, so we have a final whip round, an FO round, and then the grand prize round. So I did want to talk about and show what the giveaway prizes are going to be for these final rounds of the winter Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. So on the Knitalong side, so for the final whip round of prizes, so these are all your whip posts up until this point. Continue to count for those unless you've already won a whip prize. On the knitting side, I have a signed copy of, it's in a bag, sorry, of Patty Lyon's new Knitting Bag of Tricks books that also has a little notions pouch with it. And then from Jen at Children of the Rice, a set of, I think these are the swear symbol, they're probably hard to see there, but the swear symbol stitch markers from Jen at Children of the Rice. So that's for the knitter. On the crochet side, for the last whip, I have your choice of different sizes, but I pulled one out of the box, of one of the Furls wooden crochet hooks. So this is, I think, an H, yes, but I have several different sizes in the wooden crochet hooks. These are incredibly light. I can only imagine how comfortable they are to crochet with. And then again, from Jen at Children of the Corn, I think these are Children of the Corn, Children, God. Children of the Rice. Sorry, Jen. These are little dessert stitch markers. And then for the sock knitter, I have this was actually from last year's, but it got sent back to me from overseas because customs didn't like it for some reason. Some more stitch markers from Jen at Children of the Rice, and then I have the Cocoa Collection Marigold Bridge sock set from Treehouse Knits. So those will be the final whip prizes for the giveaway. For FOs, we have a lot of yarn from Yarnaceous Fibers. So on the knitting side, and this is only about half of it, sorry for the crinkles, I have a bunch of yarn. I probably have, I would say, 10 to 15 skeins of yarn in a mix of DK and fingering weight from Yarnaceous Fibers. The winner will get their choice of 2 of those skeins. On the crochet side, or did I mess this up? On the crochet side, no, same thing. I'm sorry. We are going to do 2 skeins of the Yarnaceous Fibers yarn for the crocheter, and then on the knitting side, for the FO, I have a couple of different sock sets from Yarnaceous Fibers. Oops. I think they're. Man, we're not doing well today. Okay. A couple different sock sets. I think I may have a couple more to choose from. So you get your choice of one of those, and then I have a sock set from Unique from Earth Yarns, and this is in collaboration with Gigi, and it is called Orange with 2 G's, GG in there, and this is self-striping socks in orange. So you'll get your choice of the Yarnaceous sock kit, and then that Earth Yarns Unique sock kit. And then for the grand prize, I'm just not going to go through all of these, I don't think, but I have a ton of bags, and the grand prize winner, which will be drawn from all of the entries, will get their choice of one of these bags. So I have this one, just show a couple of these. This Hellfire Club bag from Happy Little Knits. I have a couple of bags from Scrappy Angel in different prints and different sizes. I have one from Yarn and Whiskey, which is absolutely gorgeous. And then a couple from to choose from Beautiful Sister. So, and there's a couple more in here, but you'll basically get your choice of a bag. So that's for the grand prize. And then all of the FOs, anyone who has an FO, your entry will get thrown into a bucket for the season grand prize winner at the end of the Pride Knitalong and at the end of July. So if you have an FO, you will get to carry those entries over for the season grand prize winner. So it should be a lot of fun. I've been seeing a lot of great FOs coming through, especially on the sock side, and a couple really beautiful resolution shawls as well. So keep them coming and get your entries in before for the end of the month. The next Knitalong and Crochetalong, which will be the spring one, is going to be a choose your own adventure. We did this last year on the crochet side, I think in the spring, and everyone seemed to like it. So I thought we would just expand it and do knitting and crocheting this year. The way it will work is you can work on any project. It doesn't have to be a new project. It could be a WIP or a new project, something that's been sitting in your queue for a long time that you want to get going on. I know I'm going to be working on a test knit for a sample knit for the Pride Crochetalong in the yarn that was picked out for that project. So I'm going to be working on that, and I won't be able to show it because I don't want to reveal it before the announcement of the design and dyer for the Pride Crochetalong. But you can work on anything, and there will be on my Ko-Fi page or Coffee page, there will be a ticket that you can buy, and that is your entry ticket into the giveaways. And so you'll use hashtags like we always do, and anyone who's bought a ticket either on the knitting side or on the crocheting side, there will be 2 buckets of prizes will be entered into the giveaways for the Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. It's not going to run the full 2 months. It's going to basically run for about a month and a half. I just wanted to give myself a little bit of a buffer on either side. So right now I'm looking at having it run from the 15th of March until the end of April. And instead of just the normal 5 rounds of giveaways, I'm going to do 7 rounds of giveaways as sort of an incentive to get the ticket and join in and help fundraise. 100% of the ticket sales will be going to AIDS Lifecycle. So I thought $10 for a ticket was a pretty good kind of easy round number. I think last year when we did the Crochetalong one, we did it at $12 because I was trying to match or tie it into the purchase price of patterns. But I think $10 is a good round number, and so that is what we're going to do. I will sometime in the next couple of weeks get that set up on the Coffee page to have that ticket available for sale, and then at the end of each month, as I always do, I will have a transparency post showing all of the money that came in on my Coffee page, and then that same amount being donated to AIDS Lifecycle, just so everyone is clear that that's what's going on there. So I'm looking forward to having that month and a half to kind of catch up on some things. I'm hoping to have some most of the whips that I'm working on now in the FO bucket before then, and have a couple projects I can kick off, but I do have a couple things I'll show you that I know I'm not going to get finished in time, so those will definitely be on my list of things that I'm working on during the Choose Your Own Adventure. But it should be fun, and we'll continue to do the weekly Zoom call that we do every Tuesday evening, and it's really fun because now we'll all be working on different things, and we'll get to follow along each other's progress on different kinds of projects. So that is what is upcoming in the fundraising part of this project. In terms of actual knitting and crocheting that's been going on, it's been a little unfortunately a little slow. I don't know. I don't want to blame my house guests because I enjoyed having them, but you know, you don't want to just be sitting around knitting when you have house guests. Plus, I have to do a lot of cooking and things like that. But I have made a little bit of progress on things. Unfortunately, I don't have any FOs. I was really hoping to have at least one project finished to show this week and to have that box ticked off before I head out in a little bit on a trip and have something new I could take on the trip with me. But it looks like I'm going to be taking some, probably not all of these with me, and getting them finished up on the plane rides. And we're going to talk about travel knitting here in just a minute. So why don't we go ahead and go through them. The first one I have sitting right here are my socks. So if you'll recall, this is my first attempt at 2 at a time socks, my third pair of socks ever after, and I finished the resolution socks, which sort of excited me to knit more. So these are just plain vanilla socks using a formula from Kate Atherley's custom sock book. And so my recipe, we'll see how these fit, but the recipe as it stands was casting on 64 stitches. I used a German twisted cast on. I did twisted rib, I think 20 rows, and then I did a heel flap and gusset. And everything's been going pretty smoothly. I'm in the straightaway now. I think I have about 3 inches more of foot knitting, and just round and round and round before I get to the toe decreases. But it's been pretty smooth. I mean, there's a couple little gaps that I found when I was, picking up stitches for the gusset, but nothing dramatic. I've been pretty happy about how this method has worked, although I am going to try something new on the next round. And this is in Knit Picks Felici in the Fiesta colorway. So I'm hoping by the next time I speak to you, these are complete. I think this will be good. It's easy and compact and easy to take. It is living in my Scrappy Angel bag. I need to go back and double check what the name of this bag is, but it's a perfect size for these 2 at a time socks, because you can keep, you can't really see it in there now, but you can keep your two skeins of yarn separate on either side. There's still enough room for them to kind of move around and to put a couple things down in there. But it's just a perfect little size for this project. So those are my socks. The other thing that I've been furiously working on and really had hoped I was going to be finished is my reconstructed shawl. This is the shawl that we're doing in the Knitalong currently, that's wrapping up in the next week or so. And I really thought I was close to being done. I had finished the last colorwork section, and then there's what she calls the dividing section, which are these in between, sort of stockinette with these garter ridge rows, dividing section, and then there was a ribbing section, and there was 6 rows of the dividing section, and then 4 rows of ribbing. And so I thought, I only have 10 more rows to go, and then it's an I-cord bind off, so that's going to take me a while, but I should be able to get this done before we head out. And failure to fully read the instructions. There was in fact 6 rows of the dividing section and 4 rows of the pattern repeat for the ribbing section, but you need to do it 5 times in total. So I've gotten through the dividing section. I'm just about to start the ribbing section, but I have, I think, 20 rows of ribbing to do. These rows are quite long at this point, not slip stravaganza long for those of you who have done that shawl, but they are well over 400 stitches long right now, and so each one takes a bit of time, but I am enjoying how it's turned out. It is full of errors, but that's okay. I like the way the colors are playing together. If you'll recall, I bought Maggie of Yarnaceous Fiber the kit that she had designed for this shawl, but I went off book in terms of my contrast colors. She had a muted rainbow. I went through and picked out some minis from the Cocoa collection from Treehouse Knits, and then added this orange, the second section there, which is from Seismic Yarn. And then each one of these sections, has a different stitch count. But I like the way that it's turned out. It's colors that I don't already have in my shawl library, so it will be something that I can throw into the mix and rotate around and not have too much duplication. But it is going to be a long I-cord bind off. Like I said, I had hoped to have this done, but since it is pretty easy, I'm through the colorwork section. It is just the ribbing. There's still increases and things to pay attention to, but I think it is something that could work well on a plane. I think there's a total of 7 hours of travel time in the not too distant future each way between layovers and actual plane flights. So I could probably get those 20 rows done over those 2 trips, and maybe sitting around with where we are, sitting around the evening and working on that as well. So we shall see. I'm also working on, and this is not going to be a travel project at all, but this is great TV knitting. I've shown this before. This is the Windy Day Blanket by Pearl Soho. I finished, I think I had this last time, one square, and I'm halfway through the second square. This is all being done in Malabrigo Rios in 4 colors. I haven't added the 4th color in. I think it's going to be the bottom triangle in this second square. Great TV knitting. It's going a little slower than I had hoped. I was hoping to get 1 square done a week. So that is going to be my primary project, along with the sample knit, during my Choose My Own Adventure Knitalong in March and April, because I really need to get that done for a graduation gift by sometime in May. So I'm going to have my work cut out for me in terms of doing that. It's going to get increasingly less portable, but as I said, it's great TV knitting because it's just garter stitch and sort of increases and decreases on one edge. So it's pretty mindless in terms of the basic mechanics of it. So it should be pretty easy. Just going to take some time to get that done. And then the last thing, which has been in a bit of time out, so there's nothing new this time around, but this is the Pop Baby cardigan, and being done in Lola Bean Boucle. I don't know that I've made any progress on this in the last week or so. What happened was I did a test swatch and I got gauge-ish. I would say I was probably half a stitch off in my stitch gauge, but I did not even measure for row gauge. And I have finished the increases on the yoke, but I have about 6, or as the pattern is written, about 6 more rows of straight knitting before I'm supposed to separate for sleeves. I am already at the yoke depth that the pattern says I should be at when I finish those additional 6 rows of knitting to separate for sleeves. So I asked Valerie of Creations by Valerie, who is our on our Zoom calls, weekly Zoom calls, is our resident sweater expert, and she suggested that I just go ahead and split for sleeves now, and then sort of knit it to measurements instead of knitting it according to the pattern, and going off of the, taking a step away from the pattern and just kind of going with measurements. This is a little daunting for me. It's not something that I would normally do, and so I just needed to sit back and think about it for a little bit. So I am going to go ahead and do that. I need to figure out, these are buttonholes here, and I need to figure out, I have one more to add, which was supposed to be done right there, so I just need to kind of incorporate that into doing that after the splits for sleeves. So this will get some more attention in the coming week, but I did not make any more progress on it. I love how the fabric is turning out. I think it's going to be a great sweater, for a little girl. The boucle is very squishy and soft. I will say boucle is not my favorite to knit with. It's just, you really can't see the stitches, and it's just harder to read your knitting with it. But I do love the way the fabric turned out, and this color is really, really, really cute. So anyway, it's living in my Black Pearl Magic Lola Bean Yarn Co. Hip Hop Holidays see-through bag. So that's all that's going on in terms of things that are on the needles. I, as I've mentioned, have an upcoming travel thing and needed to figure out what I'm going to take for traveling. There are a couple of long-ish plane rides, which I love. I love being on a long plane ride as long as I'm not in like a middle seat between, screaming babies and annoying people. But I do like sort of that me time to just sit and knit and listen to music or listen to a podcast or whatever. So I need to kind of figure out what to take with me. I hate to take that reconstructed shawl because it's kind of big and bulky. It may not be great on the plane if it is sort of crowded. And so I thought, one of the things I was interested in hearing from people is what kind of projects you like to take with you. How many do you take if you have a week-long trip? How many is a good number of projects to take? And does that kind of depend on where you're going and what the temperature is? I mean, I can't see myself, going to Florida in the heat and taking a big, Aran weight sweater with me. So let me know in the comments below what kind of projects you like to take with you when you're traveling. Any issues you've ever had with traveling with needles or notions. I have never ever had any sort of issue with needles in my carry-on. In my carry-on. Either, I don't know that I've ever taken long straight ones, but certainly not any of my circulars I've never had a problem with. And then I should have brought with me, but maybe on a future episode, show you my little notions box that I throw in when I'm traveling. I basically have an old eyeglasses case for when you get new glasses, and they always give you the hard case. And in there I just throw sort of some tapestry needles and a cable hook, and then I use nail clippers as my snips for scissors. I can put a tape measure in there and a crochet hook to catch drop stitches, and it's just a great little self-contained kind of notions pouch. That's not my full-size notions pouch, but for traveling, that's what I use. But I'd be interested in hearing what other things people find indispensable for taking on trips, and kind of what projects you like to work on. So for me, for this trip, I am going to end up taking the shawl because I want to try to get that finished before the end of the Knitalong Crochetalong, and there's no way I can do that if I don't take it with me, because it's going to end while we're traveling. And the socks seemed like a natural fit. I was hoping to finish those so I could start a new pair. I'm really, really interested in trying this method from Safia Tali, the drunk knitter. Her 2-in-1 sock, so it's knitting one long sock and then separating for that. And I think I want to try that with 9-inch circulars, and that just seemed like a perfect travel project, because once you have your measurements, and where to do the lifelines for the heels and toes and the separation, it's just knitting a giant tube, and that seemed like very, very easy and compact to take with you. There's not really a lot that you need to do in terms of counting if you're just doing a plain vanilla sock, which is what I intended to do. So I may just go ahead and take that with the wishful thinking that I'm going to finish the pair of socks that I currently have on the needle and be in need of a new project to start, maybe on the return trip or something. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And so maybe that's all I do. I feel like I should take the baby cardigan, but again, that seems like a little, sort of bigger project. It also, because it's a new concept for me in terms of knitting a circular yoke sweater, me adjusting for the gauge issue that I'm having, it just seems like it's not as mindless a project as I might want on traveling, where I'm stopping and starting and putting things in the bag and moving, getting on and off planes, etc. So that one may stay home and be something I work on, up until the trip, and then have to pick it up again when I get back home. But in the comments below, let me know what's your ideal travel project for knitting on the go, and what you'd like to take with you. In terms of, I said that it was a good week or two for acquisitions. I had participated myself in my own Destash, so I got rid of a bunch of stuff, but because, as I mentioned, it was kind of a buyer's auction, I took advantage of some really great pricing and got some steals on some really fun yarn. So a couple of things I've already put away, so I won't be able to show that, but for, not really for me, but I have a whole box of yarn that I keep for charity knitting, and my goal is to knit 10 hats or 10 somethings for Knit the Rainbow this year. Knit the Rainbow, they just shut off donation acceptance for this season, and then at the end of the summer they'll open it up again for next season. But I was able to pick up these 4 skeins of Knit Picks Felici worsted, and I think it was probably $7 or $8 for all four skeins. So it was, I thought, a good deal. Although I know you can often get Knit Picks stuff, at 30% off on the website. But I thought the colors were fun. I think those would be great to just do really simple beanies, and the yarn does the work for you in terms of or the stripes. I may look into finding a simple cowl pattern as well, because I know that is something they're always looking for. They get a lot of hats, which they need, but I know that mittens and socks are also things that they need. And I thought maybe a cowl would be kind of fun to do 2 of these into a cowl. So I got these 4 skeins of Knit Picks Felici. That'll go into the charity knitting basket for hats for Knit the Rainbow. But then from Valerie, Creations by Valerie, who I mentioned earlier, is the host of our weekly Zoom. She had these 2 skeins of Les Garçons fingering weight BFL sock, and I can't. One is called Rose Ann's First Knit, and the other is Harry's Suit. And I think they were part of a kit for maybe a Harlow hat by Andrea Mowry. But I love the Les Garçons yarn, obviously, or maybe not obviously if you've not watched the the podcast before. But I am a sucker for a navy blue yarn. I basically can never pass up a navy blue yarn, and this is a really nice dark navy. But I thought those were fun together. And then Valerie, because she's a doll, threw in this really nice, I don't know what color do you call that, sort of a pale turquoise, a ocean blue, I don't know, but I think these 3 go great together. And I didn't really have any plans for the 2 that I was buying, but when I saw these 3 together, I thought I need to find some sort of 3 skein fingering weight shawl and use these all together, because I think they're really great together. It was really funny because I think it was the same day that package came. I also got one of my final orders of yarn for myself that is coming. I think I have one more some later in the spring that's going to be for me to keep, but was my final order from Treehouse Knits from her Stranger Things, the second round of Stranger Things. I did a huge buy of the first round, but then she added this color, which obviously Valerie and I have similar tastes in colorways. They're very close, but this is the this is the 001 colorway, which was new in the second round of the Stranger Things collection from Lauren at Treehouse Knits. And so because I like the color, I grabbed it, and then just also picked up one of the colors that I had not gotten in the first my first order, and reds and oranges are colors that are a little bit less representative in my stash. So this is the Running Up That Hill colorway in her cashmere or MCM sock base. It was really pretty, with lots of little browns in there as well. So those came on the same day, and then I didn't bring them in there with me, but a non-yarn arrival. Pom Pom Publishing was doing a sort of seconds sale, so damaged books or books that had some cosmetic issues with them, they were selling for 50% off, and so I was able to pick up the Ready Set Raglan book, the Moon and Turtle book, and then one that's all sock patterns. And they came yesterday, and except for one of them that just had like a bit of a crease in the cover, I couldn't see what the damage was to any of them. But it was a great deal at 50% off, so I was able to pick those up, and those will be great to flip through. I just saw that Kevin at Needles on the Ready is knitting one of the sweaters in the Turtle and Moon or Moon and Turtle book, and they have some really pretty colorwork yoke sweaters. I think they're all probably heavier weight than I would be able to get away with out here, but still some really pretty patterns. I'm really excited about the sock book. So the other thing that came, and I posted it on Instagram, but I don't have it with me in the room, is some yarn from the Wandering Flock. So I did not get to go to Vogue Knitting Live this year. I will be going, and just bought my plane tickets, I will be going to Maryland Sheep and Wool, but I did not get to go to Vogue Knitting Live in New York. That'll have to be another year. But I saw that Geraldine at the Wandering Flock had posted when she was getting ready, packing up to go to the show, and there are a couple colorways that were going to be exclusive. One of them, Jelly Bean, I have a skein of, which I just rediscovered when we were going through my stash the other day. But that was available on the website, and it was going to be available at the show. And then another color called Mermaid Parade, which I believe she launched last year. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, I really want to get a skein of that. And then it was one of those where it was, up on the website, and 20 seconds later, it was all sold out, or I came to it a day later after it had been released and missed out. But it was always in the back of my mind, like, oh, I have to keep, when she does shop updates, let me see if it ever comes back. And I've never seen it come back. And even when she did her dyed to order, it was not one of the colorways that you could get. And she said that she was going to be having it for Vogue Knitting Live, but it wasn't going to be available on the website. It was available at the show only. And I'd posted like, oh my gosh, like, I was already, sad that I wasn't going to be at Vogue Knitting Live, and this sort of made me even more sad. Well, someone that I'm friends with on Instagram, Vicky, reached out and said, I'm going to be at the show, like, let me know what you want, and I will happily kick the camera there, and I'll happily, I'll pick it up to you and get it in the mail to you. So she was so sweet, and I was able to get some of the Mermaid Parade yarn. I got it in the fingering weight and the mohair. It's absolutely beautiful. It's on my Instagram page. I apologize for not having it in here today, but I'm going to make an Oslo hat out of it. The mohair edition by Petite Knit. I've seen several people post those. It just looks super cozy. It's not at all my normal color palette. So the Mermaid Parade, and I'll put a picture of it here, is sort of a pale green with like neon speckles. so not at all my normal navy olive gray color palette, but I just love it, and I think it's gonna be a super cozy hat, and I'm really excited to. And I posted it today, and Geraldine from Wandering Flock said that she's gonna make the same hat out of it, so we'll be, Oslo Hats twinsies, so that'll be kind of fun. But those are the acquisitions. I think the only other Destash thing that's coming for me is a book that I bought. Someone was selling a copy of a book that's Aaron and Gansey's patterns, and I thought that would be really kind of interesting just to flip through. Don't know that I'll ever have the fortitude to try to knit an Aaron sweater on my own, but maybe it'll inspire me to do that at some point down the road. So that's it. I don't think I have a lot more coming. I know, as I said, the only thing I think that I know that's coming that was a pre-order was some of Lindsay's yarn from her Wakanda Forever collection. If you've been watching for a while, I love a theme, and in particular, I love a Marvel Comics theme. I have my Marvel Comics Granny Stripe blanket project that once I get all of the Marvel character yarn from Five Borough Yarns, I'm going to start hopefully working on that sometime this year as well. But so I think that was the last thing I had, and fingers crossed I can hold tight to my plans until I get to Maryland Sheep and Wool, where I undoubtedly will buy some yarn, but trying to keep that yarn flow on the negative side for the rest of the year. So that is all I have on sort of the yarn and crafting and acquisition side of things. Thought I could talk a little bit about some craftivism ideas that have come through my feed over the last couple of weeks. The first thing I wanted to mention is from two of my favorite designers and people on Instagram. Well, actually 4 of them, but 2 on the design side, and that is from Fatima at Disturbing the Fleece and Elizabeth from Days of More Design. They have collaborated on a project that they are calling the KAL, so radical but with a K, cowls, and each of them designed a cowl that looks almost exactly alike. I mean, they're very similar. Fatima's is knit, and Elizabeth's is Tunisian crochet, but they both have sort of cables and some color blocking and lots of texture in them, but they put them together in an ebook, and then 50% of the proceeds of the sales from the ebook are going to be donated to Radical Threads, which is the magazine that Elizabeth helped found. I think I have my copy here. So this is Radical Threads. If you are unfamiliar, it is a kind of a lifestyle magazine. I mean, there's a ton of knitting and crocheting patterns in there, but also recipes and sort of other lifestyle type of things, gardening and things like that, that centers BBIMP designers and dyers and makers and writers, and they are getting ready to launch their next year's worth of issues, and so they're doing some fundraising around that. And so 50% of the sales price of the Radical Cowls ebook is going to go to support Radical Threads. Adela of Lola Bean Yarn Co. has also made the Radical Threads fundraiser her cause of the quarter. So she, when she does lives and sells badges, also has links at her on her website and on her Instagram page to help the GoFundMe for Radical Threads. So interesting, and I love this model. I hope that more people sort of use it going forward. But basically, when you buy the ebook that has both of the patterns in it, in there is a code which then allows you to go to the Lola Bean Yarn Co. website to buy yarn kits specifically for the cowl. And it's yarn from Lola Bean as well as from Shoba at Serendipitous Wool. So there are 2 color palettes. I mean, one is called the Tunisian kit and one's called the knit kit. But they basically, I think, all use about the same I think they use the same yarn and the same amount. They're both 2 skeins of yarn. And then there's a color pop, which I think is not included in the kit. So there's 2 main colors. And then there's a little color pop that does one of the color blocks that they suggest that you use scrap. But you basically, when you buy the patterns, then you get the code, and then you have access to buy the yarn kit, which I think is a fantastic model, because if you've ever tried to, buy some of Lola Bean's yarn, it can disappear very quickly. And so this is a way for them to sort of keep it tied to help the designers, sell the patterns. It's also, you could definitely do these from scraps. I think I should know, but I think it's a worsted weight, or it can be maybe DK or worsted weight. Future Gary here, wanting to go back and tell past Gary to take better notes and write things down before filming. So the yarn for the Radical cowls, on the Tunisian crochet side, it is written in DK weight or worsted weight. It takes a little bit more than 2 full skeins of DK weight, but 200 gram skeins of worsted weight in that version of the pattern. And then on the knitting side, it is written for fingering weight held double, 2 100 gram skeins plus your color pop, which is extra, or you could use DK weight, Fatima says. So sorry about that. Strive to do better on taking better notes before I film. Back to your regularly scheduled program. But go check it out. It's a really cool looking pattern, and I just got the book today, so I'm going to flip through it and see if it's something that maybe I can do a couple of those for Knit the Rainbow next year. So I think it'd be a fun project to kind of tie it all together. So that is the Radical Cowl ebook from Disturbing the Fleece and Days of More Designs, and yarn kits from Lola Bean Yarn Co. and Serendipitous Wool. And I should say that $10 from each of the yarn kit sales is also being donated to Radical Threads magazine. So everybody wins. The other one, and this is a little different than things that I normally talk about, but one of my friends, Carol, said, "Have you seen this thing?" And I said I hadn't. So it is called Puppy Toes. I'll put a picture of they call it a bauble. I would say, Christmas ornament is what it looks like to me, but it's basically a knitted little ornament. Ball-shaped ornament, and it is a fundraiser that is being organized by Marinated Yarns and the Knitting Tutor, and it is running through, I think it's running through the end of February, so you only have a few more days to get it on board. 100% of the proceeds are going to go to Ruff, R-U-F-F, Haven, which is a pet crisis shelter in Salt Lake City that basically, if you are having some sort of crisis in your life, whether that's a housing crisis, just a financial crisis, where you are at risk of losing your pet or having to have your pet adopted by someone else, they will temporarily house your pet for, I think, 60 to 90 days while you can get back on your feet so that you don't lose your pet. So I think it's a fantastic program. And so the Marinated Yarns and the Knitting Tutor have put together these kits to make the baubles that they're selling on the Marinated Yarns website. Links to this and to everything I've mentioned throughout this episode are in the show notes. In the kit, you get 3 mini skeins. You get a stitch marker with a little dog paw print on it, and then you get the pattern, obviously, and then the actual bauble itself, or the little plastic insert that you put the knitting around to make the little ornament. So it's very, very cute. And so, like I said, the links to the product are below, but I thought that was a fun little fundraiser that's being run for a really great sounding cause. The other thing that I thought I would mention is Busy Showers. I've mentioned them before. It's a program that is run by Laverne from Busy Peach Yarns, and it is a networking and resources sort of program for new and emerging black fiber businesses. So yarn dyers and yarn shops and pattern designers and things like that. And it is run much like a bridal shower or a baby shower for these new businesses, where they get a chance to highlight what their business is all about, how they would like to grow their business, and then they put together basically a registry of things that they need to help their businesses grow, whether it's for a yarn store, fixtures, or a cash register, or just office supplies or things like that. And then Laverne, through the Busy Showers Instagram account, does these live events where they bring the business owner in and talk about the business and sort of highlight what they're doing. And so the newest one is coming up on the 10th of March from 8 to 9 p.m. It's going to be done on Instagram Live, which I think is the first time she's doing it on Instagram Live. And the featured business is Jada Wu Designs. Again, all the links down below, who is a yarn dyer. So I think it's a really fun program, a way to engage the community outside of just the local area, wherever the business exists, and just sort of bring a spotlight to some new and emerging makers and dyers and designers in the fiber community, and help them sort of get a little jump start on their on growing their business. So that is Busy Showers with Jada Wu Designs on the 10th of March from 8 to 9 p.m. on Instagram Live. So those were just a few of the ideas that came my way over the last couple of weeks. I hope you can check out some of those and help some of these folks who are trying to either grow their businesses or just doing some great things for the community. And that's about all I have for this episode. I thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join me, to find out what I'm working on, and to learn about some of these opportunities in our community to do some good. I will see you in the next couple of weeks. If you have a chance and you enjoyed this content, please subscribe, like this episode, leave comments down below, and share with a friend. It really helps with all of the algorithmic things and help me to continue to grow this community. Again, thank you so much. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.